In just a week, most of you guys will be sitting around the Thanksgiving table, surrounded by your families. And it reminds me of when I was your age. I think when I was 17, I had one of the worst Thanksgivings I could imagine. I remember being around the table with my family. There was a football game on in the background, at least 5 different conversations going on. And for some reason, my sister decided it was the right time to stand up and get everyone's attention and shout out, "I heard a rumor that Andrew's gay." My face went pale. I was horrified, beyond horrified. I was found out. My deepest, darkest secret, the thing I'd held on to for nearly a decade, the secret I devoted almost all of my energy towards hiding, constantly concerned at the image I was projecting. And now, my worst fear had come true at Thanksgiving. There was a very short and awkward silence that was ended by my mother. What she was about to say would decide my fate. She said, "Well, that's ridiculous. Andrew can't be gay. He's such an incredible athlete." "It's true," I heard from someone else. "Yeah, I mean, a football, hockey, and lacrosse player being gay? Have you heard anything more absurd?" And then there was my big sister who started all of this. And she said, "I know. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard." Wow. I just barely escaped that one, I thought. And maybe if I'd somehow gotten up the nerve to speak up in that moment and say something like, "It's not ridiculous or absurd. It's true. It's my life. I'm sorry," maybe things would have been easier. I wouldn't have had to keep it inside all to myself any longer. But that wasn't the right time for me. Not quite yet. I grew up in a family that was obsessed with sports. It's what we did. My sister was an unbelievable ice hockey player. My brother was a great lacrosse player. Both of them played in college. And I wanted to be great at a sport too, and play in college just like they did. From the beginning, lacrosse came easily to me. I was the starting goalie on varsity as a freshman at my high school, and I quickly became one of the best players on the team. I was very confident in my skills. I had a lot of fun on the field. But when we were in the locker room, I was not as confident. Before practice, I would hear terms thrown around like, "What a fag. That's so gay." Even at halftime of a game, my teammates would say, "Let's beat those homos." I played along because I didn't want to draw any attention to myself, but I hated hearing it. And when I was alone, I would think, if that's how they feel about gay people, then they'd probably kick me off the team if they knew about me. We call it casual homophobia, these words that indicate to those of us who are gay that we'd never be accepted, and so we live in fear of the day that others will find out. But when they do find out and teammates are supportive, it means all those words are very misleading and unnecessarily harmful. I had a former high school hockey teammate send me this message. "Dear Andrew, I think about how you must have felt in hockey and lacrosse with the things that people, including myself, I'm sure, said about being gay. I look back on that and feel terrible, immature. I respect your strength for what you must have endured in high school." I hope that me speaking today means that none of you will have to send something like that to one of your teammates someday. Now, at your age, I spent most nights lying awake in bed, imagining my future, knowing I'd have to hide who I was in order to do the things I wanted to do, like play college lacrosse. So I did everything in my power to hide myself in every moment of every day. And being good at sports was the perfect cover, because for whatever reason, most people just assume that athletes, at least the ones that play the tough guy sports like football and lacrosse, are straight. As I excelled in lacrosse through middle school and high school, I didn't imagine there'd be a chance that I could play the sport I loved in college and be openly gay. I mean, there wasn't a single example. Nobody in lacrosse, nobody in any pro team sport, and nobody even in any college team sport. Certainly nobody who was a leader on their team. I remember reading about a few individual sport athletes in college who were openly gay: swimmers, gymnasts, skiers. And I remember reading about a high school football player. He just barely survived a suicide attempt and was outed to his entire community and became an outcast. And I did not want to go down like that. I do remember one moment of hope in high school. It was a moment that challenged this whole assumption that the tough male athlete must be straight. I walked into the lacrosse locker room one day after practice during junior year, and a bunch of guys were reading an article about a kid a year older than me at a Massachusetts high school. He was a football player, a linebacker, captain of the team, all-around tough guy, named Corey Johnson. And the article talked about how this guy just stood up one day, told his teammates and his coaches that he's gay, and how they all got up and supported him. Knowing that my teammates were reading this article, I was totally scared, wondering, they're probably thinking, who's gay in our locker room? But my teammates, they read the article and just said, oh, that's pretty cool, and went along with their day. Like, there's this disconnect between the words that they use, that I hear every day, and then how they truly feel when there's a face to it. Now, if you're lucky enough to go on to play sports in college, you'll find you spend almost all of your time with your teammates, from early morning running and weight training, film study, practice, and then meals before and after practice. So I was always around my teammates and always had to be on alert, making sure they all knew that I was straight, just like them, which meant that I had to listen to the same homophobic language I'd heard in high school about that professor that gave a pop quiz, what a faggot. And while being in the locker room and around my teammates, it was stressful. Being on the field was the opposite. That's where I felt completely free. And my sophomore year in college, that was the year everything came together. I became the starting goalie for the Ivy League champion Dartmouth lacrosse team. We made the NCAA tournament for the first and only time in our school's history. And I ended up making a save and running the length of the field to score a goal against Syracuse, the defending Division I champions. And that was a big moment for me. A bold move for a goalie to score a goal. It got me a lot of attention. By the end of the year, I was named All Ivy League, All New England, All American, and my teammates voted me their most valuable player. After the season was over, I decided it was probably time to tell my teammates what I'd been holding inside for way too long and spending way too much energy hiding. I thought I had proven my value on the field, and I could not imagine that my teammates, my brothers, could drop their MVP for being gay. Now, I was pretty afraid to stand up in front of everyone and make a big announcement like I'm doing right now. So I ended up cornering one of my teammates in the weight room. He was a leader, a favorite of the guys, and I said the two scariest words in the whole world: I'm gay. And then I let him do the real work for me. I asked him to share the news with everyone else. Poor guy. He was very surprised, as were most of the guys. And to be honest, I don't know what they had to do to come around to support me, but they all did. And they all let me know in their own unique way. And then that was it. With those two simple words to my teammates, I'm gay, coming from their goalie, their MVP, my life was over. That life full of fears and doubts, where being an athlete meant you couldn't be gay and being gay meant you couldn't be an athlete. That was done. I was in the afterlife, free and clear. And I was confident. I was a goddamn gay All-American, and those 25 guys whose words made me feel like I'd never be accepted for who I was, they made damn sure that nobody was going to say a bad word about me. How about that for a turnaround? Now, that's not to say it wasn't always easy. I remember a freshman pushing another out of the way and saying, "Dude, stop being a fag." And the whole team went quiet. And one guy says, "Oh, you're in trouble." You know, honestly, I didn't care about the word that he used. I cared that my teammates wanted nothing to do with it. They didn't encourage it. They squashed it. And that was cool. Over time, the words that they used started to shift. They became more inclusive. And as I became more comfortable with myself, the whole situation got better. Not every locker room is the same. I played hockey with a guy from Tennessee. When his teammates found out that he had a boyfriend, they told him he better quit the team or they'd hurt him so bad he'd never walk again. Some people are brought up with different beliefs, certain religions. People may have trouble accepting a gay teammate. But if I was in that situation, I would simply ask for respect, something I think everyone on the team deserves. And when you play on a team sport, you want everyone to feel at their best, so everyone can contribute and the team can do their best. Now, it's 2015. We have marriage equality. Sometimes I wonder how important this message still is. I spoke at a school just last week. When I left, I got a message from a female athlete. She wrote, "Every night I cry myself to sleep. I think about suicide quite often, and just last night almost did end up dead. I have never said the words, 'I'm gay.' I'm too scared. Just being around girls in the locker room makes me feel like I'm not normal and I do not belong here. I can't thank you enough for what you said in your speech. It's given me a lot of hope." Now, back in 2005, I was reluctant to have my story told on ESPN. To put myself out there in such a public way and be some kind of poster child for the gay athlete. But I remember what this girl feels like, to want to be normal, afraid to face those fears. I knew that just by being myself and letting others see it, there were athletes who might think, one of my teammates might be gay. Maybe I should ease up on the homophobic language. And there might be young kids who'd see it and feel hopeful about the future. You know, it's funny, the thing I feared the most has now given me the opportunity to inspire kids who are a lot like me, to be the example I wished I had when I was younger. And while the beautiful video that ESPN put together that you just watched, it talked about what I did for Braden, it didn't talk about what he did for me, which is to give meaning and purpose to all of those years of struggling. Like, I went through what I went through so I could stand there and tell this kid, it's going to be okay. A lot has changed since I came out. It still takes courage to say those two words, "I'm gay." And kids like Braden and this female athlete I just mentioned can still struggle and feel like they are without hope. But the struggle doesn't have to last as long as it once did, and the hope is just an internet search away. Whatever you might be struggling with, it doesn't have to be your sexuality. Know that you'll get through it, and the strength it requires to get through, to face your fears and make it to the other side, it's going to serve you for the rest of your life. Now I want to finish up with this. We're all different, all unique. We know very little about what others may be dealing with. Caitlyn Jenner was once considered the greatest male athlete on the planet. And it turns out she was doing everything she could to project the manliest image possible. So let's try not to make assumptions about other people. Be thoughtful about the words you use and know that something you say could have a significant impact on the person you least suspect. But also recognize that you have the power to create a positive environment where people feel free to be themselves. It's what my teammates did. You know, a lot of guys in college, they put up pictures of good-looking girls on the walls in their dorm room. I had a photo of Andy Roddick, the tennis player who retired a few years ago. And I remember during my senior year, my captain reached out to me, "Dude, you have to turn on ESPN 2. Your guy Roddick is playing a match on TV." That is acceptance. That is support. Be like that, and you and your friends will all be able to fall asleep at night, feeling good about tomorrow. Thank you.